First, you asked this in the same comment thread. What person 15 years younger than me thinks about abortion? Probably a lot, considering that I'm 32. You don't think 17-year-olds think about abortion? I started writing essays about abortion when I was 13 years old, and I was on the pro-life side. But moving on. You know what else has been made very apparent since 2020? The absolute apathy you guys have for anyone who's in any kind of small percentage of the population. We spent the entirety of the pandemic hearing people like you say things like, COVID only kills the old and the immunocompromised. I don't see why we have to shut everything down. Because you don't consider relatively small parts of the population, like the old and the immunocompromised, as worthy of life if it interferes with your life. Good to know that that thinking extends to people who are experiencing dangerous pregnancies. It doesn't matter how few cases there are. One case should be enough for you to care about. But it's way more than one case, because 0.6 of 4.4 million is still thousands and thousands of people. Now, let me ask you something. Do you think we shouldn't worry about children with leukemia? Because about 0.01% of American children will be diagnosed with leukemia every year. But it's such a small number, we shouldn't be concerning ourselves with that, right? It doesn't matter how small a population I belong to, I'm still a person with a life, and people who would have missed me if I died if Planned Parenthood hadn't found the ectopic pregnancy the day it ruptured. You know what's almost a non-existent number? The amount of people who have asymptomatic ectopic pregnancies. But hey, I also belong to that small group. So you are of one of two mindsets. That those of us who are experiencing these not actually very rare things aren't worth the resources to save our lives. Or everyone who is included in these small populations, or everyone who thinks about these small populations, should shut up so you can stop hearing about it. But you're also assuming that despite no one talking about it, we'll all magically get better. No. People who get pregnant while on birth control, especially when it's an IUD, and especially when that pregnancy is ectopic, will sometimes not be okay. Having an ectopic pregnancy was dangerous before Roe v. Wade was overturned. But now pregnant people who have one are being denied life-saving measures until it's almost too late. And because treatment is being delayed so much, someone who might otherwise have had a child later in their life can no longer do that because they lose their uterus or they lose their fertility. Small populations are actually made up of millions of people. And those people all still matter, even if you don't want to think about them. And the most hilarious part of it is, let's say that you convince someone who wants to have an abortion to give birth to that child. If that child, when it gets older, has an accidental pregnancy despite using birth control, you would throw that person straight in the trash. You only care about people before they're out of the womb.